have my Snapchat set so anybody can send me snaps, like people I don't know, strangers and stuff. And the snap that I get the most are from people and it just says bored. Or it's like a selfie of them and they're like bored, nothing to do. How are there this many people that have all this time and no way to occupy it? You could build a city with all the free time that people spend sitting around being bored, sending me snaps of themselves sitting around being bored. Can you read what that says? That is a fluorescent light that hangs above my office door that says work harder. It also says the same thing tattooed on my wrist, just in case I forget. Seneca said, it's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Thank you, Ryan, for turning me on to that quote. And that pretty much sums it up. Right now it's go time for me. I want to maximize every waking second. I'm never going to get any younger, but right now I'm completely healthy, I'm full of energy, and who knows how long this will last. I doubt it's going to be like that when I'm 50 or 60 years old, so I want to do it now. With that, I wanted to share a little bit of my thinking behind that, like a little bit of the logic and then the mechanics behind maximizing, or my consideration for really maximizing every day. And I know that this is crazy person talk, but the truth is, the only time I really get bummed out or depressed is when I'm not being productive, is when I'm not accomplishing or doing or contributing in any way. Nothing makes me less happy than relaxation and sitting around with nothing to do. Time is the most precious resource. This is the most valuable thing I have, and that's why I'm so protective of my time. I think life is substantiated by whatever impact or whatever contribution you can make while you're alive. The finish line's the same for everyone. We're all ending up in the same place, but while we're here, what contribution can you make? Work and building things and making things and doing things and spending time with your family, those are the ways that I feel I'm contributing, that I'm accomplishing something. So why wouldn't I want to maximize my time as efficiently as possible to be as effective as I can with that? And that is why I say free time is the enemy of progress, because free time sitting around is not doing. And that's why I try to omit that entirely from my life. How do you get yourself out of a rut? Work. Work is the answer to a lot of problems. It cures depression, heartbreak, all those things. When you're in a bad place, I bury myself with work. The progress and the physical activity and the brain distraction, it like breaks me out of anything. Tell me how to succeed as in motivation. I can't tell you that. You have to find your own motivation. Can't rely on other people. Andrew wants to know, how do you surround yourself with the right people? That's a great question. I don't know how to surround yourself with the right people. What I do is like eliminate the bad people. If you're somebody that I don't want in my life, get out. How do you not give a shit about what anyone thinks and just do your own thing? That's a two-part answer to a two-part question. The first part about how do you just do your own thing. In life you have two options. You can do your own thing and stand out, or you can do what you're supposed to do, you can do what everyone else does, and you can fit in. There's nothing wrong with fitting in, but you're fitting into cultural or societal norms that were created by other people. Now, in some cases these norms are great, but in others they don't make sense. These norms, these rules, were created by someone just like you or someone just like me. I don't know who created these norms. Chances are they weren't anyone smarter than you or me. And if I'm not a fan of the way things are, I just do my own thing because I trust myself and I trust my perspective more so than that of other people. Part two, how do you not give a shit about what people think of you? I should preface this answer by saying I definitely got made fun of a lot for the way that I look when I was in school, and all of those bullies that picked on me are all losers now. So never forget that. People who judge others, especially people who judge others based on things like looks, on whether you're black or white, whether you're Jewish or you're Muslim, whether you are gay or straight, because of their body type, whether they're fat or skinny, whether you have pimples or whether you have a big butt. These judgmental people, their opinions don't matter because they don't matter. Judgmental people are of a lower moral authority than those who don't judge. And we, people who don't judge, we have a responsibility to crush, to destroy those mean, judgmental bullies. And we do that with an overwhelming positivity, and we do that with our extreme open-mindedness. And when you subscribe to those values, you really stop caring what other people think. Because chances are, if other people are judging you, they're wrong. Today, I want to talk about haters. The biggest question that I see is, how do you not let haters get to you? And the truth is, like, haters get to me. They bother me. No one's immune to that. Like, nobody likes to be put down. But there are a couple of things that I remember. First and foremost, haters are losers. Haters are unquestionably losers. They bring people down in hopes of elevating themselves, but that's not how the world works. If you're bringing someone else down, you're going right there with them. That is fact. Human beings, we come in all different shapes and sizes. We're all beautiful in our own way. Never pick on someone because of the way they look. You can't help the way you look. You've got to judge people by their substance, not by their superficiality. The prettiest girl in the world really stops being pretty if she's not interesting. The flip of that is like a super interesting girl is attractive no matter what she looks like. So, I don't know, why do I think Candace is such an outrageous babe? Because she's like funny and fun and holds my attention, and I love hanging out with her. A great question that I really liked is, how have haters contributed to my success? You know, I think every time somebody puts you down, it makes you want to push harder to go back up. This is one of my favorites. Chelsea Peretti tweeted this. Haters are gonna hate, creators are gonna create. And that's probably one of the biggest frustrations of being a creator on YouTube, is that, like, we're the ones doing the work. You're just some typing in the comments. Like, while you're sitting there late at night in your underwear spreading hate across YouTube, we're up working. We're working really hard to make things, to put out there, to share ideas and share our perspectives. And you're just some dope, just some f***ing dope sitting there putting other people down. Hating's really easy, creating is really hard. Happiness is the best revenge. Nothing drives people crazier than seeing someone have a good fucking life. And you know what? That's the truth. Jealousy and envy, that's behind most haters. They want what you have, they can't have it, so they hate on you. The more good you have, the more they hate on you, the more they push you down. Some thoughts in general. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Assume that they're being good. Assume that they're being positive. It makes you vulnerable. And every once in a while you will be proven wrong and you'll feel like a jerk because somebody who you thought was good turned out to be an But the truth is, the alternative is to be a negative, skeptical, cynical person. And there's enough cynicism in this world. I give everyone the benefit of the doubt. I always assume the best. And sometimes I'm wrong, and that makes me feel like a jerk. But I deal with it because it's a very small price to pay. Ignore the haters. Ignore them because they don't matter. They're small, weak, feeble people who are unhappy. They're deeply unhappy. They're hurt. Deep down, they're hurt. And hurt people hurt people. When you're hurt, you spread the hurt. And that's what they're doing. The next time you're being bullied, the next time you're the recipient of a hater's negativity, know this. Their punishment is their life. Something my brother used to say. Know that while they might be picking on you with a smile on their face, writing that comment with a snarky look on their face, when they lay in bed at night, they're not happy. They don't feel good about themselves. They're weak, scared little people, terrified about what tomorrow might bring. This idea is more of a fundamental, it's more of a principle. It's one of like my guiding rules in life. And I want to address it on this vlog because a lot of people in the comments below and whenever I do Q&As, a lot of people ask me about what they should do when they're sort of at any kind of fork in the road, at any sort of crossroads in life, and they need to make a decision. What should they do? And this is like big life decisions, not like what should I have for lunch today. In life, you should only ever be doing one of two things, and that is figuring out what you're most passionate about, like finding your dreams in life, and then two, realizing those passions, realizing those dreams. And the first one is much harder than the second one. If you know what you want to do, no big deal. You just commit your entire life to doing it, and you'll either get really close or you'll die trying. But figuring out what it is that excites you, what it is that you're most passionate about in life is really, really tricky. So how I approach it, and this is how I've always approached it. This is how I approached it when I was on welfare, when I was 17 years old. This is how I approached it when I was washing dishes, when I was 20. This is how I've approached my entire life. And that is to absolutely fixate on what it is that I want to be doing all day long, every day. Like, what am I doing right now? Is this exactly where I want to be? And by always checking with myself, always checking in, like always hitting that reset button, I can always be really confident in my actions because I know that my ambition is true. It's like that platitude, without a goal you can't score. I really believe in that because if you can't see like the goalposts, how do you know which way to kick the ball? Now, this is by no means a shortcut or a way to make life easier. Every time I've sort of made a big decision on what I wanted to do in life, or I've discovered a passion, it's been then like years of pain and years of struggle to realize or to even get myself on the course to realize that. When I first discovered filmmaking and I was like, this is all I want in life, I was 17 years old. I was on welfare. It took me a decade before I figured out how to make a living at it. When I decided that I didn't want to date anymore, I didn't want to be single, that I was unhappy, I wanted a family. It took me years to talk Candace into marrying me, and then actually us getting married, and then having a baby. So realizing it takes time, and realizing it requires commitment. But it's that first step, that first decision point that enables you to sort of realize the ambition, or at least begin the process to realize that ambition. This is something I do every day, even now. I'm 34 years old, I feel like I've come really far in life, but I want to go much further, and I'm constantly reevaluating my decisions and what I'm doing to make sure I'm on the path that I want to be on. So anyways, that's it. It's a pretty simple idea. It's something that I believe in to the point of it being like religion. I am always fixated on what am I doing and what do I want to be doing. And then that guides me. That is the lighthouse that I follow through the darkness. But your grasp should always be just outside your reach. What's the point in having ambitions if they aren't seemingly unattainable? The only thing in life that stands between you and everything you've ever wanted to do is doing it. All that stood between me and everything I've ever wanted to do in life was doing it. Let's chat a little about complainers. Generally, a complainer is a person who doesn't take responsibility for their own action. A complainer is someone who would always talk about why they failed instead of how to succeed. Now, there's one simple reason why it's never ever okay to complain, and that is there's always someone that has it worse than you do. Let me give that a little context. So when I think about some of the things in my life that I'd want to complain about, some of the really hard things, and then I give them any sort of real world context, they aren't that consequential. Let me get really specific. When I was 16 years old and I had to drop out of high school to get a terrible job to support my new baby, that was pretty rough. You know, that is a big enough excuse for me to justify any actions I take in my life. I know, but I couldn't do this because. To embrace that as an excuse to complain. But the truth is that's not so bad. Dropping out of high school, like really not having much of a place to live, having no money, having a baby, being on welfare, like all those things really suck. But in the grand scheme of humanity, it's not that bad. Bear with me. I turn on my computer, I go to a news site, and the first story I read is about migrants from Myanmar that are stuck on a boat, stranded, because the Thai government won't let them into port. These are people just like you and me, and they're literally starving to death, and this is right now. I don't mean to be so extreme, but these are the things that I remind myself of anytime I want to complain or bitch about something in my life. You realize that there are people just like you and me who at this very moment are truly facing things we're lucky enough to go our entire lives without ever having to experience. One more story where like my feelings around complaining and life in general were really set straight. 3 years ago I did this project, led like a very small relief mission to the Philippines after they had been devastated by Typhoon Haiyan. This is some of the video here. That was somebody's home.
Yeah.
People didn't have water, people didn't have food. You know, these people had nothing. Their livelihoods, their life, their existence had totally been stripped away from them. And what struck me the most about the entire experience, all of my time there, was not once did anyone complain. But they had lost everything, and they didn't complain. And they all focused on one thing. They focused on change, not complaining. And because of that, I do take it personally when people complain, because the truth is, most of the time, people who complain have nothing to complain about. It really doesn't matter. Never let perfect be the enemy of good enough. That principle really articulates what these vlogs are for me. Prior to vlogging, I used to put out maybe a movie a month or something like that. And my excuse for not being more prolific was always that I want what I make to be perfect. And I guess if you're Stanley Kubrick or you're Quentin Tarantino, there is validity in that argument. But in retrospect, that argument was just an excuse for me to not make more. By no longer letting myself embrace that excuse, I've forced myself to be more prolific. And it was via that proliferation, via that increased output of my own medium, these movies, that I've found my voice, and I've found, I think, a renewed passion for what has been my craft. Someone who starts something and doesn't finish something, that is a loser. Someone who starts something and always finishes it, that is a closer. Last week I talked about that Voltaire quote, "Perfection is the enemy of good." And what that means is you can never let your desire for perfection prevent you from finishing something that's good. Because to finish something, even imperfectly, is to learn from it, and then you can move on and get closer to perfection. Prior to really embracing YouTube, I always considered like my filmmaking, the content I made, to be precious, and perfection was imperative. And how that actually manifested, what that actually meant, was I just didn't make a lot of stuff because I always had that excuse to fall back on. And in embracing YouTube, and more specifically, giving myself this daily mandate to upload a video, it has forced me to abandon this idea of perfection, this false idea of perfection, and instead forced me to focus on productivity. And that, in aggregate, over time, has made me a much better filmmaker, has made me a much better storyteller, creator, all of that. 80% of the movie, that is the filming, like all the stuff with the camera, me out running around, like the idea, the concept, all that stuff. The first 80% of the movie is only 20% of the work. And the last 20% of the movie, which is for me the editing, the last 20% of the movie is 80% of the work. All the things that people typically associate with making a movie is really only the small part of the pie. And the big part of the pie, the Pac-Man part, this is finishing. This is closing. And this rule, by the way, this applies to everything in life. This applies to school, whether you're a painter or a musician, trying to write a song, trying to start a company. Entrepreneurship, this applies to. My business, this applies to. When you run a marathon, 26 miles, the first 22 is only 20% of the work. It's those last 4 miles that are 80% of the work. Work is my life, it's like my lifeline, it's like my energy source, my happiness source. Work is my everything. And since we got to Los Angeles, there's just been so many variables, like getting situated and the house, and Candace has been sick, the baby's been sick, Owen just got here. I haven't been as productive as I normally am. Productivity equals happiness. A lack of productivity, for me, equals, I don't know, somewhere between absolute frustration and rage. I like this question. Bosco wants to know, divide into percentage these factors to reach success. Natural talent, luck, and determination. Natural talent is highly overrated. It's determination, 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 and then like luck and all that other education and all that. It's like, it's not even in the same pie chart. Gonzalez, what do you think about the comfort zone? I think it's the worst place you could ever be. When you're hungry, you want more. When you're wildly successful, you can embrace your hard work and be proud of it. When you're in the comfort zone, it's just blah. writes, other than hard work, what advice would you give to better yourself both in life and in your career field? Focus. Focus is super underrated. Like, if you commit all that you are and all of your energy to one thing, I took this from a book called, I don't know what it's called, but it goes like this. All right, you can do 10 things to like the first degree, like this right here, and that's how well you'll do all 10 things. Or you can do one thing to the 10th degree right there, and look how much better you do that. So when it comes to focus, to put all of your energy into one thing is to do that one thing really well, to the best of your abilities, to take it all the way. And to scatter yourself means you're never actually accomplishing anything. You're just sort of chipping away at a bunch of nothingness. And this is true for work, this is true for like dating versus committing yourself to one person, friendship, everything. Like really focusing and investing yourself into something you're passionate about will always yield better results than scattering yourself around, than spreading yourself thin. Why is Malcolm X a hero to you? Malcolm X is my hero because the guy went to prison as a total degenerate, as a proper criminal. He deserved to go to jail. And while in jail, all he did was educate himself. And when he came out as this great, strong, maybe one of the greatest communicators of the civil rights movement. And him being like this, I think the sort of quintessential autodidact is something that's tremendously inspiring for me because, you know, I'm a high school dropout. I never went to college. I never went to school. And when I was younger, a gigantic insecurity of mine was my lack of education. And looking at someone that had an impact on this world as tremendous as Malcolm X, and realizing that he also didn't have an education, he took it upon himself to educate himself, that's moving for me. And that's all without getting into the actual impact that he had on this world and what he did, which is tremendous. But I identify with him personally because of that journey. Here's a general good guiding principles around higher education. This is more of like a universal answer about college or life in general, but it's like the path you take to success or happiness in life can have a gazillion different manifestations. I dropped out of high school in the 10th grade and like went on welfare and got a job washing dishes because I had to. I had to support my baby, like I had no other options. But that is what led me to what I'm doing today. I couldn't have predicted that. And I think that what college is really incredible for is if you don't know what to do, college can be a really great place to find that. And that's not just the academic aspects, but also the social aspects. Being around new people, like living away from your parents' house, being exposed to all of the sort of different cultural aspects of being a melting pot that is like, that is a college. But I also think that the price of college is insanely expensive. And before you drop a couple $100,000 on it, on school, you know, money is fungible. Like how else could you spend that money and what will take you further in life? If you know what you want to do in life and it doesn't require a college education, go do that and skip college. If you know what you want to do in life and it requires a college education, go to college. If you don't know what you want to do in life at all, college can be a fantastic place to figure that out. And I mean that from a social perspective, an academic perspective, an experiential perspective. College can be wonderful for that, but it is not the only path for that. What do you recommend for your first job? Unless you know exactly what you want to be doing, I recommend getting a job digging ditches or washing dishes or picking up garbage. If you don't know what you want to do, get a job doing something you hate, because you will spend every minute of it fixating on what you wish you were doing, and that is invaluable. You've worked on some awesome projects with awesome clients. Beyond making great work, what do you do to find these opportunities? Typically, opportunities are created, not found. I've always created opportunities by like taking really big risks. I made a whole bunch of movies that I paid for myself that were really hard to do, and I had no idea what the outcome might be, but it's because I did the work first that these opportunities were created. A really smart person told me, you spend your 20s figuring it out and your 30s doing it. What would be a good first job for someone who wants to be an entrepreneur later on? Get as close to the fire as humanly possible. If there's someone you admire, if there is a company that you like, get a job pushing a mop, sweeping a broom, whatever it takes. The closer to the action you can be, the more you're gonna learn. Don't worry about money or position. It's where you are that matters most when you're first starting out in your career. Living comfortably has never, ever been a goal of mine. Comfort is not something that I pursue. On my list of priorities, comfort is somewhere near the bottom. If you could do it all again, would you change anything? Fun question. I'm not really into hypotheticals. I'm very rooted in reality and where I am right now. And to look back and say I would have done this differently would mean that I might not be in the position I'm in right now. And I'm really happy with the progress I've made in life. So I'm much more about looking forward and thinking, what can I do now to affect my future, than I am looking at my past saying, I wish I'd done this.